All right, welcome back to another episode of Seenu. We're getting really close to wrapping this one up. And in this episode, we are going to be working on a whole bunch of things, but specifically, we're going to be working on some sand dunes. I've been posting some screenshots all over social media the last couple days, primarily on Facebook and Twitter. But I also did post a few on Reddit and on YouTube themselves. I don't know if you keep seeing. I think this only works for mobile users of the platform, but I've been posting some like channel update, basically posts on YouTube. So let me know if that's a little bit too spammy or not. I rarely use YouTube on my phone. I'm primarily using it on desktop, so I never see those posts. But if it gets a little bit out of hand, I'll tone those down. But here we are back in this remote island that was started in the previous episode, and we're going to be extending the farmland that we sort of started the previous episode, even though I kind of didn't record a lot of footage of that because, you know, I ran out of space. But yeah, this just so you know, this episode is going to be pretty much, I would say 60%, you know, time-lapse commentary as I am doing now, but the remaining 40% of the video will be a real-time commentary as I build and detail a few areas of the map. I haven't done that in a little while, and I figured you guys might enjoy that. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And you know, while I sort of cover all this terrain with farmland here, I wanted to update on a couple things that are going to be taking place in the next couple weeks. So first thing, I've been talking to Flux about him finishing his project. So it looks like that's happening. In fact, that might be episode 29. So I'm going to be working on episode 28 next week, and then he's going to be working on episode 29. And after that, it's going to be back to me for episode 30, which should be the last episode of the series. We're really, I mean, after this episode, there's only a few little projects that I wanted to tackle. Even though I guess I'm focusing the attention of this episode on the sand dunes that you're looking at on the screen right now, and I'm going to talk about those in just a second. But we're also going to be working on finishing the convention center that took forever to find the perfect asset for. But we'll cover that in just a second. What I'm doing here is basically using or really taking advantage of the theme that I put together when I created the project almost a year ago. Which has a cliff texture that is just those, sandy stripes. I don't know. I mean, I know that has a name. That has to have a name, but I guess someone will correct me in the comment section to what that is actually called. And all I did was just, raise the terrain up a little bit, enough so that the cliff texture is visible. And that, just doing like different hills based on those, and also mixing the texture up with the oil, which is the old texture, by the way, which is a different kind of sand. I specifically made all these on purpose when I created the map theme, so that you have some variety of different sand banks, I guess. So I'm starting with like a very strong type of sandy hill, and then going after with a little bit of smoothing so that they're not so pointy. Because sand dunes are pretty much like very roundy and very like rolling-y, if those are even words that I should be using. On the other end of this road, I wanted to have a little village here. There seems to be a shortage of workers around this island, and the funniest thing is that all these farm buildings keep saying that they don't have enough raw materials. I mean, if you're going to be like very technical about it, like farms do require raw materials, but I mean, come on, you're a farm. You are basically the raw materials. You're the producer of raw materials, so come on, man. I mean, yeah, the yield here is not very good. And that's why there's a lot of demand for industrial, as you can see on the bottom status bar thing. I think I stopped looking at that like at least, I don't know, 10 episodes ago. I don't even care at this point. The fact that I can just blow up houses and not really worry about the the population balance and all that is just, yeah, I feel like it's a waste of time. This game is really not suited. I keep getting this question in the comments, by the way. We're like, oh, why don't you play by the game rules? And I think I talked about this many times before, but just the game mechanics are kind of broken if you really want to play it that way. So I'm treating this as, as a 3D modeling software at this point, where you don't have to like animate things because cars drive themselves on the street. So that's even better than, Maya or 3D Studio Max. It's just much more fun that way. And there are some really basic mechanics that do work. Traffic management, it's kind of a thing that you can still do, even though it's somewhat, not perfect. But you can use the various traffic mods to make it look at least realistic when you do cinematics, which is why I'm building most of this for. So yeah, here it is. This is the Arolex Center, apparently. I've never seen this building before, but I did look it up on Google Maps, and this is in Switzerland. It's part of a big university campus, and I figured this would be a unique enough building that could match what the real building in the real Seenu looks like, which it used to be a convention center, by the way, a very modern building, if I may say, and that's why I picked this one. It's not nearly as similar, but the concept of it is still pretty similar. I've been told that it's been turned from a convention center to a hospital. So yeah, this is definitely not a hospital. This is still like a park type thing. So you're going to see a lot of people just hanging around here, not necessarily looking for medical attention. And that was sort of the goal anyways. But the cool thing about this building is that there's a bit of a moat around it. So what you see me do here is just extend that little swamp that I have on the other side of the bridge, and just doing my best to make it look not too crazy. You can see here one of the limitations of using the sand as a cliff texture is that there's a lot of contrast between the grass and everything else. And also, the terrain controls in Cities Skylines are a little bit rough. You can do like very thin details. So it's really hard to have like very like narrow streams. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to talk about this, but probably in the next episode I'm gonna cover a couple of things that I'm working on the sightlines for the next project, which is pretty much already in the works. Just map-wise, not really like building anything, but it's coming along. That's all I'm gonna say now. Expect more in the next couple of weeks, but. I wish that, the terrain didn't have it wasn't like that, I don't know, rough around the edges, I guess. It's really like for big mountains, big kinds of things, but for like really narrow streams like I'm trying to do here, it's a little bit complicated. And on top of that, I was trying to like figure out, I kind of did this on episode 5, I think, on the other side of that bridge, where I covered those cliffs with the surface painter, with like a darker gravel, it's the gravel texture actually. Yeah, you see me do it right now. Yeah, so that helps a lot, except the edges are a little bit jagged there. So the thing I end up doing here, just to make it look a little bit better and blend in with everything else around it, is use the breakwaters. The breakwater rocks that I've been, using for several episodes. It's an asset that I think it's the last asset I made, like on my own. They're not amazing. It's not like an amazing asset, but it's the best asset that's still in the workshop, in my opinion, that can do these types of shorelines. I know there's some rocks by Arolex that look really, really nice, the river rocks, but they're a little bit too roundy and like too perfect. I wanted something that's a little bit bigger and more jagged. These ones are not perfect either, but they do the work for now, and also they kind of match the style that I've been, working on since I started doing this series. Which, like I said before, and I think in the previous episode I mentioned this, I didn't want to like totally change the style. Even though it's probably dated and not very efficient to do it this way anymore, given the number of assets that have come out, but I still I still think it looks relatively okay, and that's one of the main reasons why I want to move on to a new project so that I can try all these like new tools and new themes. But again, more about that in the next couple of weeks, because there's still a lot of things that I haven't decided. But it's coming along. The main theme is picked up, and yeah, I keep talking about the next project, and I said I wasn't going to, but I still am. So, what am I doing here? Since we're still on a very limited prop schedule, I'm trying to be very frugal with the number of assets that I'm using, but I did want to add a few props here and there, mostly fences, so that this is like a fancy type building. I didn't want to just like have wild grass growing all around it with no particular landscaping. So I wanted to keep these entrances a little bit more manicured, and I added those really beautiful wall sets. While I was at it, I figured, hey, let's just get rid of some of these extra power lines that are counting towards the prop limit that I don't really need, and all these like extra decals that I placed everywhere. That saved quite a bit of prop numbers. I'm trying to give Flux, for his episode, a chance to actually detail something, because obviously it's going to be pretty hard to finish that resort if he doesn't have enough props to use at his disposal. So I'm trying to be very, very conservative in regards to that. I think I'm managing pretty well, and I still think that I could have pushed it a little bit more, but that's good enough. Trying to do most of the decorations with foliage, which don't count towards the prop limit. They do count towards the tree limit, as you're gonna see in the next section of the video, where I actually decorate some things. But we do have certain areas of the island that don't have any buildings of any kind. So I think I'm gonna tackle that in just a couple of seconds. After I detailed all the inner circles of this Arolex Center, which is now some type of convention center, made-up convention center. It's not really the Arolex Center, or at least that's not trying to be. Obviously, we need the mandatory flags on the entrance of the building. I tried to like mix them up a bit, even though they're like very specific European flags. These are the vanilla flags. I think I used to have the custom flags by Bloody Penguin, but for some reason I got rid of them. They didn't have the Maldives flag, so I couldn't add that one. But just adding some flowers here and there, trying to mix them up with colors. Nothing too fancy, just keeping it very, very straightforward. And for the most part, I think this is pretty much it for this part of the build. I'm looking at my timeline here in Premiere. There's a whole section where I did the nature trails that I was going to showcase. But I guess we have a few more minutes of this. In the meantime, I did want to add a few, curves, just so that big concrete segment didn't look so empty and rough. And I also added some stains so that it didn't look too perfect either. I would have added some, concrete joints, but those will take up a lot more props. So having just those two big stains there already adds a lot of detail, and it's literally 2 props, so I'll take that. Finally, adding some security guards here with some sheds and the barriers as well. And this is the part that I was just mentioning a second ago. I just wanted to have some roads that will lead to the beach, even though there's this whole area is not very populated. It's just mostly tall grass and trees and palm trees. So I try to do, instead of just laying down a straight up road, I try to do and play with the different textures and make paths out of tree clusters and grass clusters and things like that. So now a couple things that I wanted to talk about before this clip is over. I have a few seconds. The roads system was updated. I think it was the game that changed something, but now all Roads United skins are significantly darker, and then the color of the pavement is a different shade, so that really bums me out. I'm still gonna go with the settings that I had. I tweaked it a little bit just so that it looks nicer, but I'm not happy. You're gonna see it in the real-time portion just a second. Yeah, just very, very sad. I hope that I never had to use that mod again. but it served me well for a while, but now it's just not great. And also, stay tuned, because the very last clip of the cinematics, right where my logo comes in, it's going to be just a time lapse of the airport working. It was asked by someone in the comments section in the previous video, so I'm going to include that. And make sure to, enjoy, be mesmerized by that. All right, enjoy seconds of music, and I'll be back. Just right back. All right, welcome back to the real-time portion of this video. I haven't done one of these in a while. But the reason why I wanted to do this one is because I want to tackle some details in real time, and specifically water tanks. A while back, a user that goes by the name That Evan, the Steam Workshop, we were talking about some custom assets. He did a whole bunch of custom assets for Seenu specifically. As you can see here, the bollard, the fuel truck. But recently, he released the Sectional water tower, which is this beautiful structure that obviously it's adding a lot of red on my map. It looks so good. It's this is a tank that exists in the real map, and it took us a while to get it figured out, especially because there weren't that many reference photos. But he recently sent me a DM on Twitter saying, "Hey, I tackle this. It's up on the workshop. Feel free to use it." And that's what I am doing. I think it came out great. In fact, this I think will look absolutely stunning on a rail yard. So this is going to become part of my list of usual assets. It's not just for this particular build, but I think it's pretty useful for others as well. So what I'm gonna do is remove this tower here. I think we should just snap it in on the pipe that we had running before. In fact, let's just go make sure, yeah, everything's connected properly. I mean, that looks stunning. It's so industrial, I love it. You know what this needs? Let's grab some grass clusters. Let's go outside of this menu. Just cover some of the tiny little imperfections here on the ground with wow, that is really loud. I mean, obviously I'm gonna fix this in post so you wouldn't really even notice that this is loud, but this hearse is destroying my eardrums. I'm gonna bring the volume down just a tad here on my mixer. There we go. So freaking loud. So a few of these clusters, let's see, can we grab? This one's a little bit wild. Let's just put it on the corner. So this one is like loosely maintained. That's kind of the style I'm going with. And I'm trying to just keep it on the DL regarding the number of props. That's why I'm only using vegetation for the decoration, even though they do look quite nice. Let's take a look at the account. I mean, we are 140,000 trees. I think the limit is 250, right? If I'm not mistaken. So we're still within the boundaries of, the unlimited trees mod. But I mean, that looks so epic. Even this like catwalk over here, it's just, oh man, he did the, here, let me get close. He did the marks for the volume of the water. Also, I'm getting 8 frames per second. It's not just your internet, it's me. Let's point over in that direction where there isn't much going on. Man, that looks so freaking epic. You know what? I think I want to center this just slightly. Let's go away. And I know this is gonna mess up my pipes, but it's still gonna work. It's just gonna be not centered. When you move objects like this, and the pipes underneath, I can show you, they're like off. Basically, all I did is move the building, but the node is still, the pipe node is still there, so that's kind of buggy. Usually, I would recommend deleting all the pipes, putting down the tank, move it wherever you want it, and then do the connections. It's just much easier that way. All right, happy with that. Let's jump onto the other side of the atoll where there's another one that I want to put down. In this area that's loosely detailed, sort of on purpose. This, by the way, makes me so sad. Just all the different, I know, by the way, I haven't recorded the commentary that you just saw, so I'm guessing I already covered this issue, but man, this is just awful. All right, so I do have the power thingy here, the, the substation. generates 200 megawatts of power. Basically, I think you can power this 2 whole islands and have, room to spare. But in the real life city, there are these tanks that Evan put together are pretty much scattered all over the islands. In my case, I want to put one here. So, kind of keep this whole area sort of as a like a municipal building section lot where there's only like, city services of that kind. So let me just move some trees around here. Let's go back to that Evan. Not the other Evan, this Evan. And I think we can just put it down like right here. And we're gonna use some fences here to keep everything protected from evil people who want to like damage this. Actually, is this even centered? It's not. Let's rotate it so that it matches, the angle of the roads. OCD kicking in. Let's go for fence here. Let's increase the size of this menu. I love these vanilla fences. These are sort of my favorite. I mean, there's really good ones all over the place, but I think I want to keep things simple for now. So let's just put one here. I'm not gonna even use prop line tool for this. I'm just gonna go old-fashioned precision moving fences. Might as well just copy and paste this one that's already aligned, or at least loosely aligned. Yeah, I can see half a degree off. And these cars are so loud for me right now. There we go. Fantastic. Let's grab another fence. Actually, let's grab this one. Just put it right there on the corner. You know what? I have a better idea. Let's just delete this one and put it right in the center. And we're also going to be wanting to move some of these trees. Oh, you know what? I have another thing that I wanted to do here. So let's go for gate, and we can pick this gate right here, which all these gates are always open, but that's fine. Awesome. And let's just, actually, you know what? First, let's put down the tank. So search for that Evan again. Make sure this is all aligning properly. It does not. So right about here, I think it's okay. And then we're gonna grab a surface painter, just do a little bit of a marking there. Yeah, that's not too bad. Kind of liking it. In fact, let's just increase it just like that a bit, so that it looks a little bit more random, Let's grab one of these grass clusters and make it a little bit rougher. Maybe these ones are a bit too tall. Let's grab smaller ones, like this ones. So I'm just gonna do like the edges kind of like loosely around there. Make it all look a little bit nicer. Let's put down a shed, shall we? This one is huge, right? It's actually not too big, but not quite the shed I want. I think I want just like almost like a security guard, similar to what we did at the convention center thing. There we go. Sweet. And I think we could use a different type of grass, like the bloomy grass over here. Just a few patches. All that we need to do next is connect this to the pipe network, which I'm sure... Where is this thing? There we go. We need to do that, and might as well do that. Speed, there we go, great. Everything's connected. And I think one more thing I want to do before I call this completed. Let's bring this down. Fix that tiny like imperfection, otherwise people can sneak into the tank and cause mayhem, which is not what we want. Another thing that I wanted to do is grab this mixed grass thing and just put a couple here in the empty spots, just to give it a bit more detail in general. And also this one that I've been using quite a bit in this episode. I don't know why I didn't use this one before, because it doesn't count towards the prop limit, but it does fill in all these like gaps. It really does have a lot of texture, which is kind of what I want. Oh, we're missing some palm trees here, like the tall ones. So let's do that real quick. Grab a couple of these palm trees. I like to keep things in clusters. I know I said that many times, but that's what we're doing. Just, that looks realistic enough. I like it. Here we're gonna put like, just something like that. Fan-freaking-tastic. I like it. And I think that pretty much concludes, this episode. Let's start the simulation once again, and let me just show you some cinematics of how everything looked. I'm pretty happy with how this is all coming out together. It's, it's a shame about the pavement. I know I said that already, but I think, the temporary solution still somewhat works. I could make it a little bit darker, but that wouldn't really help things. That being said, I would like to ask you to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and also if you're new to the channel and haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and also clicking the notification bell. That way, well, you're notified after any of my videos come out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I would like to thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one.